Hello, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to yet another edition of the No Spots Podcast. It's episode 103. Yes, we took a bit of a break last week. Unfortunately, I was very not feeling very well, so we took the week off. But we are back. We did see you guys on Sunday for the Fastlane watch along, so we appreciate everybody joining us for that. Decent people champ here. Of course, I am joined by the Sith himself. Sith, what is going on, man? How are we doing today?
My homie, I am doing great. I hope everyone's doing well. Shout out to everyone who's out in the chat. How's everyone doing? Man, felt like a little taste of like late spring earlier this week. Felt really good. Champ, how you doing?
Yeah. I'm not too good because I just listened back and I'm still choppy on the stream itself. So this is gonna suck very much so. But we will power through because that's what we do here at the No Spots Pod. We will power through, and this is giving me more of a reason to get away from StreamYard and go to another OBS to do the streaming game and gimmick and thing like that. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to move on. We're going to begin to talk about, of course, we're going to recap Fastlane, which we got to watch along with you guys on Sunday. And of course, we'll talk about that. We'll give our final grades and everything like that. We got some news and notes, which we'll get to in just a minute. We have a New Japan recap. The only New Japan action that took place this week was on Strong, where two more men have qualified. The final two men have qualified for the New Japan Cup USA tournament. We will tell you who those two are, and then that right there, as well as some quick news from New Japan about the when they will reveal the new IWGP World Heavyweight Championship belt. So be on the lookout for that. So we will talk about that as well, as the notification for Twitch just went up. So thank you very much, Twitch, for that. Appreciate you. Anyway, and then of course we'll recap the week where we'll talk about the fallout from Fastlane with Raw and SmackDown. We will talk about both Dark and Dark Elevation. Yes, we will include the Elevation in our 2 out of 3 falls because it is a show that's out there, so we'll talk about that. We will also talk about, of course, the Wednesday night action as well. Impact. We will have our, even though despite some technical difficulties, we will have the NXT UK report for this week with the Sith. Sith talks about what happened this past Tuesday, including what was a violent main event, no disqualification match, which we'll talk about as well. And all of that and more is coming up here as we get ready to hit you with episode 103 of the podcast. So welcome again. We appreciate you. We got Hector who's watching us on Facebook Live. Hector, what's going on as always? Remember, we are currently on Facebook Live, we are on YouTube Live, and we are also on twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod. So make sure that you are supporting one of those 3 little media outlets there and check us out on one of those, especially the twitch.tv, since we are trying to get that to affiliate so we can do a lot more on that channel. Besides just present wrestling content, maybe do some gaming, maybe do some old school wrestling show watching with Sith, and things like that. But we can't do that yet until we can get to affiliates. That way we can reach a bigger audience. So we're trying to do that. Help us do that by going on there and following us there. Right? Right. So, okay. Hector's already popping off about Raw, and we just started. One thing I will say about what did he say? One thing I will say about Tuesday, I was red in the face talking on Wrestling Daily because I did a hot take. Oh Lord. Well, save your hot take for later, Hector. We'll talk about that later on. We talk about the weekend reviews. Hold to that for my man. All right. So since we're gonna have lay out for a quick bit as we get into some news, and we're gonna get rid of this little overlay here because we don't need it. So Sith will lay out, but we'll bring him back in because one of the news stories I want to talk about will involve him as well. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. The first news story I want to talk about is it's actually one that actually happened just recently, and it has to do with WWE Hall of Famer Road Dogg Jesse James, who was recently hospitalized Thursday night, and it was likely due to a heart attack. His wife, Tracy James, posted on Facebook, and the post said, and I quote, "I wanted to thank everyone for the prayers and texts. Bryan most likely suffered a heart attack late Thursday night after returning from Orlando. He has had tests run, and we're currently waiting for the results. He has also seen a kidney specialist and will have a stress test done. He's always been on blood pressure meds for high blood pressure. Please, just please pray all the tests come back for something we can fix. I am a total wreck, but I am trying so hard to be positive. Please pray for Bryan. He feels horrible, and for God to please heal my husband so he can come home. Thank y'all all so much. And then she would give an update later saying, quote, just an update. Doc came in, kidneys came back clear, and a heart cath is scheduled for Monday, and they will determine then what's to be done. Please continue to pray for him and his doctors and our family. Thank y'all, and we love y'all. So definitely, we want to send here at No Spots Podcast, we want to send our best wishes to Road Dogg, Jesse James, Brian James, going through that. That has got to be very, very scary and very, very nerve-wracking to go through that, especially when it comes to the heart and the kidneys, especially being up there in age. He's in his 50s. So prayers go out to Road Dogg, Jesse James, and that he gets well very, very, very soon, and everything comes back very, very much normal. So again, much prayers to Road Dogg and his family. The other is that we already have matches lined up. This is another news story. We have matches lined up for the third episode of AEW Dark Elevation. Of course, we missed last week, so we didn't get to talk about the debut episode, but we're here to talk about, we're going to talk about episode number 2 on this episode of the podcast, but we already have the episode 3's lineup already set, which includes a pretty nice marquee tag team matchup where the AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida will team up with Ty Conti. They will be in a tag team match against Jasmine Allure and Tesha Price. Plus, you'll have Ethan Page against Fuego del Sol and Kazarian going up against Danny Limelight. That was just announced just over the last 24 hours. The full card is as follows. With those 3 matches, you will also have Rex Lawless and Milk Chocolate against the Gun Club and Tag Action. Dark Orders 5 and 10 going up against D3 and Valley Morales. Joey Janela against Chandler Hopkins. Alex Gracia against Thunder Rosa. Penelope Ford will be in action against Layla Gray. Layla Hirsch will go up against Vipress. Kylan King will go up against Ryo Mizunami. John Moxley will be in action, holy crap, against Bill Collier. Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor will go up against Ryan Nemeth and JD Drake. Scorpio Sky will go up against Mike Seidel as well. So that's something to look forward to this coming Monday night on the YouTube with AEW Dark Elevation. But the final story we want to talk about, which is a big one, and we talked about it prior, which is the release of Andrade. Now, we know that there was reports going out saying that Andrade had asked for his release from WWE, and it was initially denied. He asked it at an episode of Monday Night Raw. It was denied, but then shortly after Fastlane went off the air, and right after we went off of Twitch, it was announced that Andrade had been released by WWE. So he is gone, and you know what? It is about time. The announcement came via WWE social media accounts that said that they have come to terms on his release and wished him the best in his future endeavors. And so there you go. And Andrade even admitted that on his social media that he did ask for his release from the company on March the 8th, saying that the rumors were in fact true. So now he is out there. He is a free agent, and I just feel for the guy because he had such promise coming into WWE. He came in through NXT. He had the heel turn, and pairing with Zelina Vega, which led to him becoming NXT champion. And then he had a nice little splash on the main roster. He did win the United States Championship at a house show, and was a pretty decent United States champion. But other than that, really didn't materialize much when it came to the main roster, and he hadn't been seen on WWE TV on the main roster since October 2020. So now he has the world at his oyster. And as I bring back in the Sith, and Sith, now that this man is no longer in WWE, there's so many places he can go, whether it be here in the United States or outside the United States. So I ask you, good sir, where do you think Andrade's next landing spot will be?
Hey, what's up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Okay, Andrade is relatively young. Okay, so he's got several options: MLW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Now, I'm leaving out AEW for now because AEW, in my view, needs to stop trying to sign all the WWE talent.
Yeah.
I would love for him to go into Ring of Honor or back into MLW or into MLW or AAA or New Japan. Imagine him going into New Japan Pro Wrestling. Imagine that, folks. Champ, ask Sage how he would like to see Andrade in New Japan Pro Wrestling. That would be
It's funny
wild as shit.
because it's funny because I believe he already has been in New Japan Pro Wrestling actually.
I think so. But he has so many prime landing spots. Hell, he could go to Nashville, go to Impact Wrestling. Mm-hmm. He could go to Impact. Impact is a wealth of talent there. It's nothing against AEW or the NWA, but in my closing statement, telling my final thoughts, I want to go somewhere where he can travel, get experience, do what he loves. And with things slowly opening back up, he does have a 90-day non-compete. Hey, fuck you, Dave. He's got a 90-day non-compete, you asshole. Andrade said that on Twitter and confirmed it. The world's open for him. So I want him to go back to either New Japan, go to MLW, AAA, or Impact, or Ring of Honor. Champ?
Yeah, like I said, Uncle, you know who we do not name in full here. Always trying to be the one to get the scoop, and he's always dead wrong. But when the world is open for Andrade, I want to see him back in New Japan because he definitely had a great run in New Japan as La Sombra, and either New Japan or go back to Mexico to either AAA or CMLL. Um, though I would most likely want to see him in CMLL just because then he will be able to have that chance to go to New Japan and work with New Japan since CMLL and New Japan have that partnership going for them. So I mean, why not? Why not be CMLL and or New Japan? Um, and maybe even Impact. I think you mentioned that, Sith. I was working on something, but maybe even Impact to be a part of the X Division. I mean, why not? He would be a great addition to the X Division in Impact Wrestling. Would Andrade? So I mean, why not? I'm gonna agree with Sith. Let's leave AEW out of the equation. They got enough people that they don't need to bring in Andrade in this instance. They don't need to do that. They got enough people on the roster now that they need to work with. They don't need to go and bring in Andrade because then the first thing that a lot of these AEW haters are going to say is they're bringing in more WWE washouts. That's all they're going to say. And they don't need to do that. This is one talent that is talented as he is AEW. Don't bother with him. Let him go somewhere else. Let him go to Impact or the CMLL or New Japan, right? But otherwise, don't bother with him. And if I'm Andrade, don't go to Ring of Honor either because Ring of Honor, they're not really on the minds and the hearts of a lot of wrestling fans. And here's the fucked up part. They just had a pay-per-view last night. They had a pay-per-view last night, their 19th anniversary, which I've seen online. It was really, really good. I didn't watch it because I don't really watch a lot of Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor is an option as well. But obviously, WWE is now in the rearview mirror for Andrade. Good for him. So now he can go out and he can really show his talents. He can really show what he's made of and what he's capable of. And he can really show who he really is, which is an extremely talented luchador. And, you know, the sky's the limit for this guy. Seriously, the sky's the limit for this guy. So those are our news and notes for this week. Not a lot to talk about news-wise, of course. And then really quick, this is a really quick news recap because again, not a lot of action with New Japan. Of course, we had the New Japan final that took place this past Sunday, which myself and Sage talked about this past Sunday on twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod. You can go back. I believe you can go back and watch that. It's still available in the video on demand. So make sure you go check that out. Where Will Ospreay won the New Japan Cup. He will get an opportunity to challenge for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship at Sakura Genesis, taking place on April the 4th, which is a Sunday, which is actually next Sunday, not the Sunday coming up, but the following Sunday, you'll have that taking place at Ryogoku Sumo Hall in Japan, where it'll be Will Ospreay challenging Kota Ibushi for the world title, as well as some other matches that have been announced. But New Japan has announced that on March the 30th, which is going to be on a Tuesday, there will be a reveal where everybody will get their first look at the new IWGP World Heavyweight Championship belt. As you know, there's been a lot of controversy regarding that championship, where Kota Ibushi combined both the heavyweight and intercontinental championships into one. So come this Tuesday, we will find out what that belt actually looks like, and I believe that Kota will go forward and be known simply as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion going forward. Going into his match with Will Ospreay, he will have a few preview matches with Will on the road to Sakura Genesis that will begin on this Sunday with a non-televised event taking place before they do Corcoran Hall back-to-back nights on the 29th and the 30th. They will have back-to-back shows there before they have another non-televised event later on that week. And then they head to Sakura Genesis on the 4th, where you will have two championship matches on the card. You will have for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships, Roppongi 3K, where Yo returned on the night of the final New Japan Cup final. Yo made his return and said he will make his in-ring return at Sakura Genesis with his partner Show. They will challenge Kanemaru and Desperado for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. And of course, you will have Kota Ibushi defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship for the very first time against Will Ospreay, the New Japan Cup winner. Also in New Japan, we had Strong last night, where the final two entrants into the New Japan Cup USA tournament were determined last night, and those two men were Clark Connors, the soon-to-be graduated young lion, who defeated TJP after he was caught in the knee bar and managed to roll him up for the pin to get the victory. Clark Connors has qualified. He will join Ren Narita as the other young lions who will be a part of this tournament. And the final participant in the New Japan Cup USA tournament is Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson. He defeated Blake Christian to qualify for the tournament. And then in a special tag team match, David Finlay and Carl Fredericks were able to defeat Filthy Tom Lawler and Danny Limelight, Team Filthy, in a special tag team main event match. But Chris Dickinson and Clark Connors are the last two to enter the New Japan Cup USA tournament. That tournament will begin next week, I believe next week, on New Japan Strong, which you can watch every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on NewJapanWorld.com. If you are a subscriber, make sure you check that out. But those are the men that will be that have finally qualified. The tournament bracket should be out pretty soon, as well as getting the matchups, and we'll go from there. And we will bring you updates on that right here on the No Spot Podcast each and every week as part of the New Japan recap. All right, Hector. The best part about the Andrade situation is that he doesn't have a 90-day clause. You missed it, Hector. Apparently on Twitter, Sif just said it on Twitter. He confirmed that he does have a 90-day non-compete. So we're going to have to wait until June to see where he lands next. So there you go. All right. Let's talk about Fastlane. Let's talk about Fastlane. So if you watched our watch along on Twitch on last Sunday, or the past Sunday, we didn't have a lot of favorable things to say about it. There may have been maybe a couple of matches that were good, but most of it was average at best. But Myself, I don't rewatch pay-per-views. I just don't have the time to do it. But Sith always does rewatch the pay-per-views just to see if he catches something that may have been missed, especially when you're watching it live and you're live streaming and trying to interact with the world. So you may miss something. So we're here now to talk about Fastlane, what happened at Fastlane, how we felt about Fastlane, what was our grade for Fastlane, and things of that nature. So now let's pull up the card and the results here, and let's talk about it. All right, here we go. We're going to talk about it. We began the night with a pre-show match for the United States Championship. Riddle went up against Mustafa Ali. It was a pretty decent back and forth contest that you would ask for the beginning of the show. It led with Riddle hitting Mustafa Ali with the second rope avalanche bro Derek to get the pinfall victory and to retain the United States Championship. After the match, Ali was jaw jacking and putting the lips to the trash talking and the bad mouth to the rest of Retribution when one by one they just said, you know what, the hell with this shit. Reckoning was first. She said, the hell with you, I'm out. Then Slapjack said, the hell with you, I'm out. And then T-Bar and May said, the hell with you, we're going to choke slam bomb you, and then we out. So now Retribution is no more. Sid, how did you feel about this opening match?
All right, this was on the kickoff, and it was a crazy way to have a kickoff match, fam. You get a decent match. It wasn't eye popping, but it wasn't bad. Taking a few spots that made you think live that Mustafa Ali had a chance to pull it off, but in reality and predictably here, even on the rewatch, you knew Ali in reality didn't have a chance to pull this off as the rug was going to end up being pulled under Mustafa Ali and Retribution as well. Riddle retains United States Championship at 9 minutes and 16 seconds. And after the match, man, I had Champ laughing his ass off. And I had the chat laughing too, because post match was like the ending to training day. Mustafa Ali got abandoned, a lot like Denzel at the end of training day. And Retribution is no more. My grade is still steady at a B minus at this point. Champ.
This is the match very much something you expect from this unexpectedness of Retribution just falling apart right then and there. I mean, they were building up with Ali always talking down to them. It kind of just built from there, and here we are. Retribution's no more. So you got to wonder two things. One, where does Mustafa Ali go from here? Because this was the only thing keeping him on TV was this angle here, and now it's over. Where does he go from here? And two, what happens to Dominic Dijakovic, to Dion Madden, to Mia Yim, and to Shane Thorne? What happens to those four? Do they stay on the main roster and actually get their identities back? That's the question. Those are the two questions that sit on my mind right now with this happening. But again, very solid matchup, and it's even more astonishing given the fact that Ali is working hurt with a torn minor tear in one of his knee ligaments, and still being able to work at this high level is just so amazing to see. But I'm concerned about what's going to happen to Mustafa Ali and the rest of those individuals that are part of Retribution. Sage, rest in peace, Retribution. Facts. But, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with them? Who knows? And then we will open the show up proper with the Women's Tag Team Championship match, which lasted 9 minutes, 45 seconds. And you would get Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler getting the victory. They had there for some assistance. They would retain over Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. Banks would be the one to eat the pinfall. Then after the match, Banks would blame Bianca Belair for the loss, called her a rookie, slapped the taste out of her mouth, in what was an okay tag match, but hopefully that gets them away from the women's tag team title match and focuses on just them two getting ready to go at it at WrestleMania for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Sith, I yield the floor to you. How did you feel about this title matchup to open the show?
All right. I'm going to say something controversial here. The match was okay, but the post match blow up and shenanigans take away from what happened with the match overall. Um, Here's something I caught, not only live but on the rewatch. Michael Cole slipped up saying fans, not the WWE universe, but fans. I bet you Vince wrote his ass about that because Vince does not like the people being called fans. It's the WWE universe. But that's neither here nor there. All right. A lot of interference protects Banks and Belair because you need them to be ready for the strong push to WrestleMania, as well as Nia throwing Belair into breaking the Banks statement submission. Nia Jax and Bianca Belair, they did some good work together in the ring, going up against each other. But as was said, Nia and Shayna retained after 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Thank you, God. Sasha Banks is back to being a heel. Thank you, wrestling gods. Okay, I'm going to catch heat for this. Sasha Banks works better as a heel and not a babyface. She empowers women better, in her case, as a heel than she does a babyface. We watch her matches on NXT. Once all that stuff comes on to Peacock, you'll see what I mean. And we know that Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair could be a match that steals the show at the Showcase of the Immortals WrestleMania. The bad thing, though, was having Banks eat the pin. That I did not like. My grade at this point is still a B minus, but teetering very quickly towards C plus. Champ.
Yeah, this match didn't raise or lower my grade. It was okay for what it was. It was a means to finally get the two women that are supposed to be facing each other at WrestleMania for the single championship out of the tag team title picture and really put the focus on them. So it did its job. We all knew that that Nia and Shayna were going to retain. I just don't see a reason to put the women's tag titles on those two, knowing that they have their thing going forward towards WrestleMania, and it just wouldn't have made any sense to have them be tag team champions and then have this storyline where they really can't stand each other. You just can't do that. Otherwise, you're gonna really not only you're gonna taint the women's tag championships, which are already tainted for the most part, but then you taint this awesome rivalry that you're gonna have with Sasha and with Bianca Belair going into WrestleMania, and then it's just gonna be just diluted. It's just gonna be unwatchable, and it's just not fun just to sit through. But now that you don't have the women's tag team championships involved in this, now you go in, and now the focus is just on the SmackDown Women's Championship. And to Seth's point, he's not wrong. Sasha Banks being babyface just doesn't really work that well. Her being a cocky, arrogant ass heel is what works for her. Her demeanor, her character, that boss character, it only works as a heel, not as a face. So her being this heel and being heel in this works the best for her. So this didn't change my grade. I believe my initial grade was going to be a C, and at this point, it's still at a C. Neither match has raised my grade, but neither match has dropped my grade at this point. But then we move on to a match that had one of the strangest finishes on the card so far, and that was Big E and Apollo Crews for the IC Championship. It was a decent match. It was short. It was under 6 minutes. 5 minutes 54 seconds to be exact. But it was a little weird finish where it was a combination of different pin attempts before Big E got the pin. Looked like he slightly bridged up just enough to get his shoulders off the mat and get the 3 count on Apollo, but there was no announcement about who won, and so then Apollo would beat down Big E at the end of the match, and he would be the one that would be standing after the match was over. And so, strange finish notwithstanding, said, what did you think about this kind of title match?
Okay, you would think this match should be a few minutes longer. Mm-hmm. But honestly, it was okay on the rewatch. Um, Biggie and Apollo had a decent match that I enjoyed live, but on the rewatch, a sinking feeling hit possibly because I want this to go until the week after WrestleMania. Okay? Because the story is that compelling, the story is that good. And I want these guys to be a headliner at WrestleMania. They're not going to be the main event, but don't put them like on the kickoff show and don't put them as the first match either on either night. Put them, in the middle and give them more time to work. Biggie wins at 5 minutes and 45 seconds, retains the Intercontinental Championship. The bright side, Biggie really having solid ring psychology. In post-match, Apollo, just that beatdown after the match was wild. Grade is still B minus, teetering on C plus. It just didn't go up or down at this point. But I really wish we had more time on this match than just 5 minutes 45 seconds.
Yeah, I agree. This didn't. This another match. This is the third match in a row where it doesn't change my grade either way. It was too short, especially given how much animosity that was there, how much the story has progressed so much from Apollo's initial heel turn until now. To only give them under 6 minutes was a bit criminal in my opinion. But the quality that they gave us in under 6 minutes doesn't diminish the match at all, because they gave us quite a bit in that little bit of time that they have. Just the finish was very, very weird and confusing. And so, like I said, it didn't drop my grade, but it didn't raise my grade either. I'm still sitting at a C at this point. I'm hoping that the next match at this point would bring it up. But then we would get, oh man. So, oh man. Okay, so they built this whole thing up where Shane McMahon got injured during a practice earlier on in the day. He injured his knee. Then they showed pictures of him holding his knee. Then they gave us the video of him hurting his knee. So then he's backstage on crutches, and Elias shows up, and it's like, hey, I want to play at WrestleMania. I want to play at WrestleMania. So then Shane's like, brings him out to try to show him what he wanted to play at WrestleMania. Then he drops in the bombshell saying, hey, oh, by the way, um, you're gonna be my replacement. You're gonna wrestle Braun tonight. Okay. And then we would get basically a 3 minute and 50-second squash match. Braun just squashed him. Pretty much, he's just squashed him. Sith shaking his head. Go ahead, Sith. Talk about it.
Bruh, bruh, do we have to relive this fucking match? I mean, it made absolutely no sense at all. It was totally uncalled for. Shit, you would have been better off not having this match on the fucking card of all. It served no purpose. It was just to have Braun Strowman out there on a pay-per-view, have Elias look like shit, and served up to be at the mercy of Strowman. After Shane said, hey, by the way, dude, you're replacing me. Have a good match. I'm injured. 3 minutes and 50 seconds of honest shit and poorly booked. My grade dropped to a D plus. A D plus at this point. Because honestly, this did not to be on the air at all. You could have ridden Shin out with the injury angle, canceled the match, left about 10 minutes off the card with the backstage interactions and on the match itself, and added a few more minutes to Biggie versus Apollo Crews, and gotten the ending right to that match. God damn it, champ.
Yeah. We're just gonna move on from this one because I don't really have much to say. This also did drop my grade to a C minus. It was the old bait and switch because I think they realized we're supposed to have this at WrestleMania, not at Fastlane. So they had to do something quick in order to not have this match happen on this pay per view. And so, what better way than just run an injury angle, and then do the bait and switch. So yeah, this dropped my grade definitely. It is what it is. I can't say nothing else about it. We're not gonna say anything else about it. We're just gonna move on to the next match. And at this point, this pay per view is moving by fast. You have had one, two, three, four matches so far that have all been under 10 minutes, including your pre-show match. So we're not even an hour in, and we've already had four matches, and we still have a couple more matches to go. But then we would get what was probably one of the best matches of the night, and that was Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura. It was just a regular singles match, but it went almost 13 minutes. Seth got the victory with a couple stops to beat Nakamura, but man, was this a good matchup. Seth, how did you feel about this one?
Okay, now we're getting into what I liked about the pay per view quite a bit. Y'all remember my attitude about Halloween 2007, where it takes me about a third to half of the movie to get to what I like about the movie? Well, this pay per view, it takes about half the pay per view to get to what Seth actually likes about the pay per view. Seth Rollins defeats Shinsuke Nakamura in a very good match. Okay, after suffering what was from a mid card and a pre show where there were issues abound all over the fucking place, we get into the territory of the card where things get better. Rollins and Nakamura, they put on a technical clinic here, and you can't get much better than this. Really good storytelling. And even though Rollins won, Nakamura isn't hurt by this loss. And honestly, we're seeing shades of the NXT version of Shinsuke Nakamura here, and you gotta love it because he was electric in NXT. The time of the match, 12 minutes 55 seconds. My grade went up to a very high C, teetering on a C plus at this point. Champ, I yield.
Dude, I really wish I could play sound effects right now. I really do. Because you said Shinsuke's name right, not once, but twice. Holy shit. Like my jaw was on the floor while I'm trying to do this gimmick here. I'm like, fuck, why don't I have sounds? Fuck me. Yeah, but this, like I said, this is one of the best matches of the night. It was a quick build to it. You know, of course, Nakamura is Cesaro's friend, and he felt he needed to go after the dude, trying to go after his friend, and it popped up out of nowhere, but it still was really, really good, especially given what we've already been given the first almost hour of the show. This was a real refresher to what we've gotten so far. And this definitely raised my grade up back to a C. Just the work rate and the story that was told here definitely was very enjoyable. I had fun watching it. I had fun, watching it along with everybody else. I just enjoyed this match so freaking much, and I'm just so glad. And let me tell you something. Like, this match was really good, but we're gonna move on to what I feel in my heart of hearts was the match of the night. The match of the night was the no holds barred match that followed this between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus that went almost 20 fucking minutes. 20 minutes. And what a match that was. What a match. And Sid, how did you feel about this matchup between these two juggernauts?
Okay, the Braveheart face paint on Drew McIntyre, highlighting his Scottish heritage. Sheamus, his longtime friend of 20 years, and they've gone through a trial by fire and fight together and accumulated into what I think is a tie for match of the night, hands fucking down. Lots of great spots. One of my favorite spots of the night was Drew taking Sheamus out on some of the Thunderdome screens. Champ, remember that spot? We were like, well, some people just got told you got knocked off the air here. Um, Sheamus taking Drew into the announcers table with white noise. Just great action, great storytelling. Drew wins 19 minutes, 40 seconds. My grade shot up to a B minus easily with this. And don't be surprised I'm revisiting this match as a top 5 candidate for match of the year come next January. Champ.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to do this video gimmick and trying to do this podcast. That's why I didn't answer you when you said that because I was trying to do the video gimmick. But yeah, no, that was a fun spot there when he went through the when he went took him out to the Thunderdome crowd and then just was like, throw you in there. There you go. Get there. That was fun. That was a fun spot. I enjoyed that. Like I said, this was the match of the night for me because you know the rivalry. You knew what was going on with these guys. You knew the type of passion that they were going and fight they were going to have. You knew, and God damn it, did you get what you got with that matchup? I had so much fun watching that match. I had so much fun watching, reacting to it when it came down to, you know, just everything about it. That was my favorite match of the night. That's a match right there that if I go back and I watch this pay-per-view over again, that's going to be a match that I'm going to go and watch more than any other match on the card. Right? That's going to be it right there. Is that match right there? Best match of the night, in my opinion. In my opinion. But then we would switch. Oh, fuck me. We would switch. And we would go to the intergender matchup, which pissed me off. This pissed me off. Alexa Bliss, Randy Orton, right? When we did our predictions, I predicted a no contest. I said, what sense would it make for either one of them to get pinned here or have a decision rendered against them? How would that make any kind of sense? And sure enough, after a lot of games, Alexa's trying to kill Randy either with fire or with lights or with what have you. When it looked like it was going to be some more shenanigans, of course, the Fiend shows up out of nowhere from under the ring. He's all burnt up and melted, and he hits her. He hits Randy Orton with Sister Abigail, and Alexa Bliss pins him while looking like she's riding him, and gets the 3 count. And my first question was this a no disqualification match? I don't think so. How was this allowed? That was my first question. And my second question is, why is this happening? Sage, don't get me wrong. The match was quite entertaining. When I look back at it, it was entertaining. It wasn't like, it was what you expect from a match like this, where you got a lot of spooky bollocks and everything like that. It was entertaining. I just didn't like the result. I didn't like the fact that the Fiend was allowed to knock him out with Sister Abigail, and she pins him, and there's no disqualification, no nothing. I didn't like the finish. But the match was quite entertaining for what it was. Seth, how did you feel about this one?
Oh, God. When this came up Monday morning for me to rewatch, the intro, the intro to Sound of Silence comes in my head. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Oh, my God. Look, this was weird and all over the place. Coughing up black liquid again. The theatrics outside of the ring. The Fiend resurrecting from under looking like a burned to bloody crisp and more demonic than ever. This should have been a no contest or a DQ win for Randy Orton. So the booking of the ending was poorly botched, badly, big time. Even though I was pleased to see the new form of the Fiend, the ending was botched in execution of the match, and execution is fucking key. My grade collapsed to a D plus. And by the way, why is Alexa straddling or appear to be straddling Randy Orton? Whose fucking idea and creative was that? You don't? Oh, fuck me. Fuck. Champ.
Like I said, the match was entertaining for what it was. I will say that. I will admit that I had a guilty pleasure with this because of what, everything that went on with this match. I just did not like the finish. And no one could change my mind on that. I didn't like the finish. It made, I guess, if you're trying to, what you did, you end up booking for Randy Orton versus The Fiend at WrestleMania anyway. So I guess it was the way to set that up. I just didn't like it that way. I would have liked it to at least been a no contest, to at least shirk the rules, or at least provide an explanation saying the ref was so shooken and scared of the Fiend returning that's why he called for the disqualification. Give us some kind of explanation as to why the Fiend was able to do that, and there was no disqualification called for a match that did not have that stipulation of no disqualification. That's all I want. If you did that, then cool. This wouldn't have. I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have cared. But you gave us no explanation, and he was just able to do that, and there's nothing to it. It just makes sense to me. It makes no sense. This is a strong word, maybe, but like this is how it was planned. Yeah, that's how it's planned, but maybe give us some kind of explanation saying the referee was so spooked by the Fiend that he didn't want to call for the disqualification. Then I'd be fine with it. But the fact that the referee can stand there and watch this happen and do nothing, and no one says, "Wow, the ref was so scared he didn't want to call for the disqualification." That's my problem with this finish. That no one says, "Wow, the referee was just absolutely terrified that he didn't want to disqualify Alexa, so he just went ahead and let it happen." Then I'd be like, cool. This dropped my grade to a very low C- at this point. Because the match was entertaining. It was entertaining. But the finish was not. It left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. It left a lot to be desired. Then we will move on to the main event. Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, Universal title match, Edge, your specialist enforcer. And this basically got the biggest. This got the biggest bulk of the pay-per-view. 30 minutes, even. 30 fucking minutes, even. But you know what? It was a well-watched 30 minutes. Back and forth between the two. Bryan using his technical ability and submission prowess to Roman Reigns. There was at one point where you saw the ref bump coming from a mile away. I mean, the ref standing behind Roman Reigns. You knew it was coming. It's like, dude, the referee's going to be in a new corner. Why is he just standing behind Roman Reigns? Oh, about to get knocked down. Sure enough, knocked down. So coming a mile away. Edge gets in there. And you figure, okay, Edge is about to get, something's going to happen to Edge probably. So sure enough, something has the Edge. It led to Edge snapping, beating him up with chairs and everything like that, and walking out all deranged. There was a point in the match where we saw for the first time in Roman Reigns history a visual tap out. It didn't count towards the matchup, but for the first time in Roman Reigns history, he visually tapped out. But again, after getting bashed with a chair, Roman Reigns would weakly get over the cover. A referee would come in, count the pinfall, and Roman Reigns escapes with the Universal Championship. Seth, what did you think about this match here?
I enjoyed the hell out of the main event. Whereas I didn't like the ending to Alexa Bliss versus Orton. I didn't like the ending. I enjoyed the carry dynamics, if you will. This was solid. Okay, you would think that possibly Roman would win clean, or that a ref could have seen Roman tap to the yes lock and see Daniel Bryan pull it off. But the story that was told, the chemistry was off the fucking chain here. And also, this was Shakespearean drama at its best. Jay getting involved, paying a price for it. Edge getting involved as a special enforcer. And to see this all accumulate into what we're going to cover in the weekend review, fuck me. Raise the stakes and make the main event at WrestleMania a ladder match. Final grade coming in my analysis. Champ, I yield.
Yeah, like I said, Sheamus and Drew was the match of the night for me. This was right behind it too. This is right behind it. Not because of the length of the match, but just because of how well the match played out. And then, that X factor of Edge getting involved. And yet it did so play into the result of the match, but it also created what we find out later on that will alter the main event WrestleMania. Everything about this match was just right, what you would expect, and then some. Which is why it was, for me, the second best match of the night. And I mean, it also helped to raise my grade to where it would ultimately end up, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But when you look at the crux of this card, there were 3 matches on this card that basically made this card only average. And that was Rollins Nakamura, That was a no-holds-barred match between Sheamus and Drew in this main event for the Universal Championship. So as we close out this recap of Fastlane, my grade was a C. You take away one of the 3 matches from this card, and the grade drops at least to a C minus. This was an average pay-per-view at best. You take away those 3 matches, one or even 2 of those 3 matches, and this is not a very good pay-per-view. It's average pay-per-view, and you take away 1 or 2 of those 3 matches, and it's a below average pay-per-view. All the other matches just were not solid enough to render this pay-per-view as anything better than average, in my opinion. So my final grade is a C. This is not a very good pay-per-view to debut on Peacock and be the pay-per-view on the road to WrestleMania. Did it build storylines going towards WrestleMania? It did. But it still was not strong. You want your final pay-per-view before WrestleMania to be strong, especially when you're getting on a new streaming service, which is supposed to be the exclusive home for this going forward. This is not a very good debut for WWE on Peacock at all. Seth, what did you think?
Okay. This was shades of a lot of the secondary pay-per-views that WWE has come out with of late, where you have to get through a lot of crap to get what's good in the case of Fastlane or Backlash, or in the case of, say, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs or Elimination Chamber, you're expecting the namesake matches to build up the pay-per-view. And a lot of you know where I'm going with this. This was an okay pay-per-view, but what brings it up is 3 of the 4 last matches. The ending to Bliss Orton left a bad taste in my mouth, but Rollins Nakamura, Sheamus Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan really left me feeling pretty good. And I agree with Champ. If you take away 2 of those matches, I'm coming here cussing up a storm and giving it a D, D minus, maybe even an F. But thankfully, you had 3 solid matches that helped kind of overlook the glaring flaws. The botched finish of Bliss Orton that should have been a double count out or no contest or a non-DQ match. I have it as a C plus, teetering on a C, because on the bright side, it did help to set you up for WrestleMania with several match possibilities. So we're on SmackDown, have a lot to build here. On the bad side, though, the undercard before you got the Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura, before you got to that match, we're not using the button tonight, but most of those matches to begin with were absolute trash. And honestly, what would have kept it at a solid C plus is having a little bit more Big E, Apollo Crews, and not having Braun Strowman show up. Period. Knowing well that it's a WrestleMania match.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't like the fact that that is a pay-per-view that's going to precede WrestleMania, and that's the best that you can come up with. That was the best you can come up with, and that's sad. That's really sad.
I think it
that it was a
Wrestle
low-level
Talk or
pay-per-view.
I think it was either What Culture, Wrestle Talk, or Cultaholic that said, we really shouldn't have had Fastlane. We really should have chucked Fastlane and gone right from Elimination Chamber right to WrestleMania.
That's what used to happen back in the day. Elimination Chamber was usually the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania, and then you had an entire month and a half to build your storylines for WrestleMania through Raw and SmackDown and even NXT, and then you go to WrestleMania, and there it is. Chucking in another pay-per-view in between that kind of dilutes that, in my humble opinion, and in Sid's opinion as well. But Fastlane is passed, so let's talk about what happened the night after with Monday Night Raw, which wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't a bad episode. at all. It wasn't super good, but that's just been the nature of Raw over the last year. Is that it's not going to be an episode that's going to blow you out the water and be like, oh, I'm going to go back and watch that. But this was an episode that was okay, and that's okay. So, for those of you who may be new to this podcast, when we do our weekend review, we used to do. We've done this in many different formats, and this is one of the newest formats that we're doing. Before, we used to do high points, low points, honorable mentions, all that good stuff. Then, I forgot what we used to do after that.
Takeaways,
what
a lot like what
takeaways. Takeaways from the shows and stuff like that, whether positive or negative. But now what we do is you see at the bottom of the screen if you're watching this on video is 2 out of 3 falls. What that means is that we each have picked 5 things from each show that stood out to us the most. 5 things. And what happens is we take those 5 things and we feed them to each other for one of us to pick 2 of those that are good and the one that was not very good. And usually you get some very unique results and some very unique picks when it comes to what stood out to us and then what was good and what was bad. So we're going to kick this off. We're going to talk about Monday Night Raw, and I'm going to kick this off and feed my co-host 5 bits from Monday Night Raw that stood out to me the most and see which one he thought was good and which 2 he thought was good and which one he thought was bad. And my audio is still trash on the live stream. This is absolutely crazy. Anyway, so number 1, Sheamus versus Lashley, which opened up the show. Kofi versus AJ. Of course, they got that tag title match going on at WrestleMania. New Day versus AJ, and almost Asuka versus Peyton Royce, plus the debut of Rhea Ripley, who came out and challenged Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke versus Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler. And the main event segment of Randy Orton summoning The Fiend and having the confrontation with The Fiend, which led to the visual challenge for The Fiend and Randy Orton at WrestleMania.
Okay. I'm going to do this. Because at the top of the list, doing a little bit of a yes thing, not to Daniel Bryan there, is Asuka versus Peyton Royce. Now, it's really fucking sad that Peyton had to do a shoot on Raw Talk to get a match like this. This match was lit. And honestly, we need to see more of Peyton Royce on Raw or have her reunite with Billie Kay over on SmackDown. And Rhea Ripley showing up. Business just picked up quick. It really did. She's finally on Monday Night Raw, the Nightmare Rhea Ripley. The promo between her and Asuka was just solid. And this is a dream match. A lot of people are going, oh no, no. This is a match we want right here. This is going to be a really good match at WrestleMania. The Nightmare versus the Empress. It's going to be good. Just trust me, peeps. Oh, boy. Second good thing, and this is really going to be causing quite a stir here, and that's AJ Styles, Kofi Kingston. Yeah. The whole thing with, Randy, that's an honorable mention. But Kofi versus AJ was better than that closing segment. It was a really good match. It helped build the tag team match at WrestleMania. And I love watching these wrestlers work in the ring as they're great, not only on the mic, but in the ring as well. And fam, you gave me the easiest bad thing of the week.
Okay.
Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler versus Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke.
It's about time.
Trash.
Fuck me. Usually I give you an easy one and you go the other way. So, okay, good to know that was the one.
Dude, hey fam, I'll do the effect for you It won't be as good, but trash. Okay, look.
Nice.
First up, we know that Nia and Shayna are finally going to split up down the road, and Reginald is the catalyst. We see this clear as day. Stevie Wonder could see this, and he's fucking blind. Secondly, this match was a fucking throwaway.
Did you
It
say
was
Stevie
just
Ray or Stevie Wonder?
Stevie Wonder could see, and he's fucking blind.
That's funny.
Okay, and look. This match was a throwaway and just there for a fucking placeholder, you know. Oh, fuck. We go from Asuka and Peyton Royce, which was not only a good match, but debuting Rhea Ripley. We get all of that, and then this shit. I'm just pissed. I'm just pissed. All right,
what do you got for us?
You're 5. The handicap match would be Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. You get Sheamus versus Bobby the Almighty Bobby Lashley. Asuka versus Peyton Royce, as well as Rhea Ripley, making her debut. It's number 3. Number 4, AJ versus Kofi. And number 5, Shane McMahon, Elias. They're singing the train intro for Strowman in the match that followed.
All right, so straight away, Lashley versus Sheamus top bill for me, because that was a hell of a way to open, and it also speaks to the toughness and the resiliency of Sheamus, because he went through a nearly 20-minute no-holds-barred match where he got thrown and slammed through every goddamn thing you can think of, and still came out welt still on his back and went to war with the almighty Bobby Lashley. Yeah, it was kind of hindered by the interference from Benjamin and from Alexander, but it still served its purpose that Bobby Lashley is trying to get ready for Drew McIntyre and defending the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. So that gets top billing for me. That's the way you open up a Monday Night Raw with that kind of match, with two horses just beating the crap out of each other. The second thing that really impressed me and was a good thing was indeed Asuka versus Peyton Royce, because as you said, Seth, she had to go on Raw Talk and basically rip people a new ass. So let them know, like, look, I want my shot. Y'all split me from my best friend to supposedly give me a shot, and you haven't given me a damn shot. Give me a shot. And she went out there and had a really good match with Asuka. Let's be fair. She had a really good match with Asuka. And then you get Rhea coming out there and say, hey, fam, listen, Charlotte's not here. So, yeah, what's up with that title shot? Well, look, to be fair, I'm down with that. I like it, because I think that Rhea should have had her WrestleMania moment last year in successfully defending the NXT Championship. Charlotte didn't need to win the NXT Championship, Women's Championship at that point. But you know what? It happened. Now let's give Rhea that WrestleMania moment and have her defeat Asuka, become the Raw Women's Champion. Is this a bit too fast for her to become Women's Champion on the main roster? Maybe, but we'll see. Hopefully, she'll get a chance to be in a couple matches before WrestleMania, so people can see what they're getting, what's going on with the Nightmare and things like that. So I like that. And just like I did the same for you, you gave me the easiest. And it has to be that shit with Shane, Braun, and Elias. That shit there, dude. Like, right. Oh man. And it's funny because said and Shelton against Drew would have been the pick had you not included Braun, Shane, and Elias. That would have been the pick, because I hate the fact that they went from Raw Tag Team Champions to get squashed by the challenger for the WWE Championship. I mean, but Elias, Shane, and Braun, that whole situation was just the pits for me. And yeah, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of it. I'm not a fan of Braun facing Shane because I don't want Braun to be made to look like a fucking fool, but he's going to be looking like a fucking fool at WrestleMania. We all know this. I mean, there's no redeeming benefit for either one of these men when it comes to this match at WrestleMania. This does shit for Strowman, and this does shit for Shane because Shane's not a regular competitor. He loses, so what? He wins. Wow, he beat Braun Strowman. What does that do for Braun? It does this. But if he wins, so what? It'll shake man. Shane's old and not a competitor, so it wasn't nothing. He loses to Shane. He looks like the biggest piece of trash in the world when it comes to in-ring competition. This is not going to be a benefit for Braun Strowman, and I just don't understand why they're doing this. Anyway, but like I said, Raw wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but again, it's not an episode that I'm just gonna go back to and watch it again. But it wasn't bad. It just wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. But we'll see if they can improve upon it. Up in the upcoming weeks. I doubt it. I doubt it. All right. Yes, we got the 2 out of 3 falls for Dark. That's gonna stay up for the next couple of segments because we are going to talk about not only AEW Dark, Elevation, but AEW Dark proper as well. So instead of creating a separate lower third for Elevation, we'll just use this one and we'll talk about them back to back. Now, as you know, Elevation debuted a couple of weeks ago. We didn't get a chance to really talk about we didn't get a chance to talk about the debut because we didn't have a podcast. But we're going to talk about the second episode, which has some really good matches and some really good stuff to talk about. So I yield the floor to Sif and see what 5 things you came up with from the second episode of AEW Dark Elevation that you want to talk about.
Okay. Going over my notes here. Ryo Mizunami versus Layla Hirsch is your first one. Danny Limelight versus Baron Black. Team Taz versus Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs. Max Caster versus Ryzen. And Ray Lynn versus Ty Conti. My homie, you have the floor.
I will say number 1 has to be Caster and Ryzen, only because of the diss track he hit him with on the way out. Like, fuck me. People don't realize, man, like Max Caster is actually a pretty good rapper, dude, but he's a really good wrestler. And poor Ryzen, like it seems like Ryzen just turned into like comedic sort of like act that's not winning matches, but he has some really good material on Being the Elite, which you can watch on Mondays on YouTube. But I really enjoy Caster. Caster, before coming to AEW, was a really accomplished singles competitor. Of course, he got put into a tag team with Anthony Bowens, and right now, Bowens is on the shelf after surgery on his knee, which was minor, and so Bowens should be back pretty soon. But Max went on the singles run, not a bad thing. He's really, really adept to it. He's good with it, and he's showing really, very, very. He's showing that he can do it. Layla Hirsch and Ryo Mizunami was number 2 for me because you got two really, really very, very talented women in the women's division. Ryo Mizunami with the Japanese strong style, Layla Hirsch with that, very tight submission game. Really, really strong matchup between those two. My bad thing, and it's not, I wouldn't say bad, it's just something that I wasn't too a fan of, was basically the squash with Team Taz. I mean, you kind of figured it was going to be a squash, and that's what you got. And it wasn't what it was, but whatever. What you expect when you got Team Taz, when you got Powerhouse Hobbs on the other side of that, you expect it to just be like, just wipe them out, basically. Basically wipe them out. For you, the 5 for you. Number 1, Big Shotty, Lee Johnson, and Adam Priest. The women's tag match between Leva Bates and Maddie Rinkowski against Big Swole and Red Velvet. Danny Limelight against Baron Black. Ryan Nemeth against Orange Cassidy. And Ethan Page against Alan Five Angels of the Dark Order.
Oh, man. This sucks because everything I liked, now I have to go to what I liked the least. Let's start off with what I liked the most. First and foremost, out of that, and this is close, but Shotty Lee Johnson versus Adam Priest. I look, I see what they're mostly trying to do with Dark Elevation. Elevate the new talent. Okay? Well, unless you're going up against Team Taz, then you're fucked. But Lee Johnson was putting over Adam Priest. Adam Priest was putting over Lee Johnson. They worked really well together. So, yeah, give that a thumbs up. The ladies' tag match, number 2, which was Leva Bates and Maddie Rinkowski versus Big Swole and Red Velvet. Intriguing matchup. And, yeah, people tend to overlook Swole. You know, people overlook Big Swole, and I don't understand why. Champ, can you tell me why people are overlooking Big Swole?
That's a good question. I want to know that myself.
Is it because that she supports BLM? Is it because that she's busy elevating the talent that she works with inside and outside the ring? I mean, this was a solid match with Red Velvet as her tag team partner. And Mandy Rinkowski is going to be better after teaming with Leva Bates, who's helping develop the women's wrestlers. What were my other 3?
Limelight
I know one was
Black.
Five versus Allen. Right. Allen versus Ethan.
Right. And then you have Limelight versus Baron Black and Ryan Nemeth versus Orange Cassidy.
Okay. You made it easy. I did, just like with Team Taz versus Nelson and Isaacs. Champ didn't hate the match. It's just he enjoyed it the least. The same thing with me with Danny Limelight, Baron Black. Not a bad match. Not the best by a country mile. Why it's bad, I just wanted to see a little bit more from this bout. I felt that there was some ingredients missing. But that takes nothing away from the fact that both guys did compete.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Now, the interesting thing about Maddie Rinkowski and Leva Bates in that tag team match was the fact that Leva walked out on Maddie Rinkowski, which is interesting because my question is Leva turning back heel? That's my question. That's what I'm wondering. Is she turning back heel?
I think so.
You think so?
If you ask my gut, ask for my gut opinion. Go for it right now. Spur of the moment. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean,
she's turning heel.
If she is turning back heel, I don't really like it. I don't, because I think that her character has been is definitely shown to be better as a face than as a heel. We tried the heel route when she was with Peter Avalon, but she was always still almost like the sympathetic babyface, even in that regard. So I honestly think that she is better as a heel. I mean, as face, but as a heel. Just in my humble opinion. So her turning heel, I don't think helps her, but we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Right. All right. So let's talk about AEW Dark Proper and what happened on AEW Dark Proper. Of course, you had some a jam-packed card there. So these are the 5 for you, Sith. Before we get to the 5 from you to me. John Silver and Alex Reynolds against Chaos Project. I'm sure you enjoyed that. The 3 women's matches that took place, especially a rare wrestling appearance by the Bunny. We don't see her wrestle much anymore, but we got to see her wrestle. QT Marshall going up against the captain, Sean Dean. The Dark Order actually going 2-0 on the night, and the FTW Heavyweight Championship match. What do you got, Seth?
This is going to shock you, champ. I'm going to shock you right now. But I have to go with Brian Cage versus Brandon Cutler for the FTW Championship. Now, I have an idea with that. What did they do with the TNA Heavyweight Championship recently? They merged it with the Impact World Championship. Eventually, I would love to see the FTW World Championship merge with the TNT Championship. Make that unified. Even though it's a kayfabe title, it wouldn't be a bad idea. This was a good match. And at one point, it looked like Cutler might pull off the win. But this should have been your preliminary main event here, if not your main event.
And you know what's funny? Hold on, Seth. I know you got the other one, but I gotta get this off my chest. I gotta get this off my chest.
Shut off.
So they kept saying that this match was the main event of the show, right?
Yep.
Yet I think it was the 5th match of like 12.
Yep.
What was that all about? Like, how are you gonna say, "Oh, this is the main event"?
5th of 15. 5th of 15.
And then it's like in the middle of the show. Like, I don't understand that. How is that possible? How does that even work? That's all I had to say. I had to think. I thought about that when I was watching. I said, "Wait." They kept saying, "This is the main event. This is the main event. This is the main event." But I was like, "Wait, this is match number 4 or 5.
Yep.
Like, this can't be the main event. There's still like 6 or 7 matches you have yet to have. Yet this is supposed to be your main event." I just thought that was weird to me. But anyway,
yeah,
that's all I got. Go ahead with the other one.
I really agree with you on that, homie. I feel you on that.
Okay, what was the other one?
This is really tough, but I have to go against the Dark Order because they are runner-up to my top 2. But they had a match in the opening against Chaos Project that was a good opening match. Champ knows, like y'all know, everyone knows, I cannot stand Luther. The dude is in his 50s and he's trying to act like he's in his 20s at times. But he did good in this match. And this was a good way to open Dark, and it wasn't a squash. You know, for the last couple of weeks, Dark is opened with squash matches. This went for a good 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes. And I'm like, all right, this is a step in the right direction here. But then, Jesus Christ. You made this easy to pick the worst, and that's the women's divisions matches, because there was only one that was really any fucking good. Bunny got a squash match. I mean, we barely see her in the ring. She's usually with the Butcher and the Bunny. I mean, Butcher and Blade. She deserves better than a fucking squash. I mean, Ashley Vox and Gracia was the best of the 3 women's matches this week. It was better paced, and Gracia looked slightly better, but women deserve better. You know, you come off of a match that is still buzzing. Just irritating. Champ, I'm going to give you your 5 before I blow a gasket here.
Go for it.
All right, homie. Gun Club and 6-man tag action against Jake St. Patrick, Baron Black, and Adam Priest. Brian Cage versus Brandon Cutler for the FTW World Heavyweight Championship. You get QT Marshall versus the Captain Sean Dean. You get John Schuyler versus Cesar Bononi, which I believe is 3. Stark's on commentary. And Miranda Elise versus Superbad Penelope Ford.
The FTW World Title definitely is right up there as one of my good points. I mean, it wasn't even a squash. That's what made it even better. It wasn't a squash. It was a pretty competitive match, and the fact that the FTW title got a title defense on a television show was recognized, and the title defense was really good. And I'm starting to see the seeds being planted, maybe by Cage breaking away from Team Test. So, and this is a good way to start that is right here. There you go. I'm fine with that. Um, and Stars on commentary was just gold. Star commentary was just gold. I always have fun when he's on commentary with Taz and with Excalibur, because you never know what he's gonna say, and it's really really enjoyable. Um, what were the other three? Because I think you were breaking up on one of them on my end. So what were the other three?
Okay, I gave you yeah. Penelope Ford versus Miranda Elise. Gave you Gun Club versus Jake St. Patrick, Baron Black, and Adam Priest.
Right.
And let me see. This is what happens when you have your entire QT versus the Captain.
Definitely QT versus the Captain. Oh no, that's not a bad thing. That was actually a really good match, actually. So no, that wasn't. Oh fuck me. If I had to pick, fuck. This is an easy one right here. But I will say the Gun Club match only because it was short. It was really short, and sometimes their trios matches are pretty competitive, and this one wasn't as competitive as it normally is, which kind of like left a bad taste in my mouth because they're normally very competitive trios matches, and this one wasn't competitive. Penelope and Miranda Alizé was actually not bad. It was just I get it that those two matches are more so showcase matches for already folks that are signed. But like I said, Gun Club usually have much more competitive matches in their trios than they have been, and that was basically a quick squash, which I didn't, I'm not a big fan of, in my opinion. So there's that. So that's gonna be my one bad thing is that, Hector, yeah, said main event in the middle of a show. Wait, what? Yeah, they kept hyping the FTW Heavyweight Championship match as the main event. It literally was in the middle of the fucking show, and I was so confused. I was like, wait, this is supposed to be a main event. I said, wait, did I miss the other matches? Like, did I all of a sudden like go into an alternate? Like, what happened? And sure enough, yeah, the placement was poor. It was poor. They hyped it as the main event and literally put it in the middle of the show, and I was so confused. And I just thought that was poorly done by on AEW's part, which once again goes back to what we talk about, which is production. You have your announcers saying it at the beginning of the show. They say it when they bring in the graphic for the match. It's the main event. It's the main event. It's the main event. But yet it's in the middle of the show. Why is you saying that it's the main event when it's in the middle of the show? They need to take that episode down and fix it so that that match is the very last match on the card as a main event. I don't even remember what was the main event.
Let me scroll back up because I've got the entire card right here. Your main event was John Schuyler versus Cesar Bononi, and that was a disappointment for the last match of the night.
Fam, why is that your main event? And it was a squash, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Fuck me.
Anyway, as was the match before that. Aaron Solo Nakamura versus Angel Fashion in D3. That was a fucking squash.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your last two matches were squashes, dude. Come on,
yep.
You can't do that. You can't do that. No, you can't do that. All right, we moving on. Let's talk about Impact.
Yep.
Fuck out here.
We're done.
Oh my god, yeah, we're done. Let's move on to Impact. Fuck me. All right, Impact. So, I'm sorry. Like I had to compose myself for a second because I'm like, fuck me. This is why people show AEW so much because they do shit like this. Like, you hyped up a championship match, the main event, and then put it in the middle of the show. Like, how? No. You can't do that.
No.
You can't do that. Shit.
All right, Impact.
Hector just took it back. Hold on. Hector just took it back. This was just like when the Kiss Demon Del Torborg was in a special main event in Super Bowl 2000.
Oh, fam.
Fucking hell.
Fucking
Fucking
hell,
hell.
dude.
Right. All right. So let's talk about Impact. Impact was a pretty good show, Hecker.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty good show, if I'm being honest. People continue to sleep on Impact. So first, before we get into Impact, and this should have been in our news and notes, and I apologize for not mentioning this, but Impact themselves, this wasn't something that Uncles You Know Who said. This is what Impact said. Impact has said they are moving to Thursday nights. They heard the rumors that NXT is moving to Tuesdays, and they said, "Fuck this, we going to Thursdays." Impact start April. They on Thursday night, not only Access TV, but on Twitch.tv as well. So yeah, we're gonna get wrestling on TV 5 nights out of the week. Monday Night Raw, NXT, Dynamite from AEW, Impact Wrestling, and SmackDown. And then, of course, online you have AEW Dark Elevation, AEW Dark, and then you're going to have the NXT UK. Holy shit, dude. And then that's not even counting all the New Japan stuff that you get if you watch New Japan, if you subscribe to New Japan World. Of course, you have ROH, which have their weekly show on Fight TV, on the Fight app, Fight.tv app.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's a lot of wrestling.
And on Fight TV as well, you have to do a subscription, but the NWA is back with Power. Man. They're back with Power, but you have to subscribe to Fight plus their little subscription thing as well to get NWA Power.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
As the comedy version of Vince said, it's just good shit.
Just good shit, boy. Right, so let's talk about Impact Wrestling. Sith. X Division title match is your first bit, right?
Right.
Second, the promo with Don Callis and Kenny Omega. Number 3, Falaba against Rohit Raju. Number 4, Deonna Purrazzo versus Jazz. And number 5, the Machine Gun Carl Anderson versus Eddie Edwards.
All right, right off the bat, number 1 was a fucking bullet. TJP versus Ace Austin. As longtime listeners know, I am very big on the X division of Impact Wrestling. It is an impressive division. As Champ said in news and notes, Andrade would be an impressive addition to the X division at Impact Wrestling. Really enjoyed TJP versus Ace Austin this week. Even though TJP won by DQ, doesn't hurt anyone in the running at all. Because it helps build a run story within the X division, and also have Josh Alexander coming in for the save after Madman Fulton interfered to stop the match. Gotta love the long-term play here, so that's good. I think that Jazz Deonna Purrazzo will accumulate either at Hardcore Justice 2 weeks from on the 10th or 25th at Rebellion. I'm not mad that Deonna won, as it's a long-term build, and it was a solid opening match. If I had to pick something bad, oh God, this is tough. Because I enjoyed all of these, everything you gave me. You said AC Trey, right? Is that one of them?
Which one? What?
AC Trey Miguel? AC
No, followed by Rohit Raju.
Oh, followed by Rohit Raju. Well, that goes up. Okay? It's an expected outcome. It's the match that I enjoyed the least, even though I enjoyed Impact from top to bottom. But my honorable mention, fam. Bigger than Gotch. Bigger than Thesz, bigger than Flair, bigger than Hogan, bigger than Moxley, bigger than Ibushi. I was fucking dying watching Kenny Omega with Don Callis. That was just wild.
Yeah, I enjoyed that promo myself as well.
All right, you're 5.
Right.
Okay. Eddie Edwards versus Carl Anderson, the main event. Let's see here. Jazz Gianna Perazo.
Mm-hmm.
The interview with Havoc and Nevaeh.
Mm-hmm.
AC Romero versus Trey Miguel. And you know, what did you think of Violent by Design this week? Those are your 5.
I definitely will say that the Violent by Design vignette was definitely one of the top 2. They just do that so well inside the prison and everything, and now you add Rhino with his intensity and his that sort of thing. I mean, what else can you ask for from such a group such as this? So that definitely sits up top for me. And number 2 definitely was Carl Anderson and Eddie Edwards. I like the dynamic of having the referee sit out, grab a chair, and put it down, and tell Doc Gallows to sit in it or I will kick you out. He basically treated him like a freaking child, and it was hilarious. But still, it was a very solid contest there. Um, if I had to choose one that wasn't the best, I would have to say the Havoc and Nevaeh interview, simply because the whole Fire and Flavor, they just continue to perpetuate that whole stereotype of colored women who are loud and ghetto. And it just, it is what it is. At this point, there's nothing I can change about it. They're gonna be that, and there's nothing I can do about it. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. That does not mean I have to like it, and I'm not gonna like it. I'm not gonna be a fan of it at all. But it is what it is. It is what it is, and
Yep.
all I could do is just deal with it. Right? That's all I can do.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
That's all you and I can do, basically, because you know how I feel about it. I feel the same way as you. It's a horrible stereotype. It's loud and ghetto, and it's like, damn, it's cringeworthy how they're being portrayed.
Right. Oh wow, Hector didn't like the promo with Cal and Omega. He thought they were annoying. Which, do you know what that means, Hector? They did their job. I
Yep.
like it. The top 2 for him was Ace versus TJP and Edwards versus Anderson. Um, I'm sorry, I can't support anything TJP. Can't. And I think you know why.
I have a feeling as to why, but I'll go ahead and let you spill the beans.
No, what do you think the theory is? You may be off, but
Uh,
this is content.
I might be off, but I think the time that he was switching up personas to get the X Division Championship back,
Nope.
or does
That's
it go
not
back
why.
to WWE?
Nope. I don't support
Okay.
TJP because he's a COVID denier.
Ah,
He's a
in which
COVID
case,
denier.
yeah, we've got a problem.
Yeah,
Houston, we have a problem here.
he is a COVID denier, and so I can never support TJP. I can't support a COVID denier at all,
Nope.
especially given the fact that people in my family have had COVID.
Yep.
You're a COVID denier. I can't support you at all.
Yep.
I had to delete somebody from my Facebook friends this week because they were spreading around lies about the COVID vaccine and about other things, and I can used to consider them family. No more.
No.
I can't do it. Can't do
No.
it. Can't do it. Won't do it.
And you know what, TJP, you're now the Sith Lord stickback for eternity now.
Hector, if you go on TJP's Twitter, I mean, there's a few. I'm pretty sure the tweets are still up there where he's basically a COVID denier. You just gotta check out his Twitter. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. But we're gonna move on. Let's talk about Dynamite.
Oh,
Wednesday Night
shit.
Dynamite. Dynamite was a pretty fun show, especially coming off
Hmm.
the heels of what happened with the lights out match that was last.
Yes.
Oh, that's the one thing that makes me mad about being sick last week. I really wanted to talk about that lights out match that ended Dynamite the week before. Oh
That
fuck
was
me!
phenomenal.
It
I'm
was
still
such a great
buzzing from
match.
that match.
It was a great match. It was a great
Yes.
match, and those two women, like we've maligned the AEW women's division on this podcast since the beginning, but and this is fair to say, that had to be the absolute best women's match they put on in their nearly 2 years. Had to be, had to be the best women's match they put on in their 2 year existence. It's right up there. And who better than your flagship woman, who's the first woman to sign to AEW, that was a talent, in Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and of course Thunder Rosa. Absolutely amazing match. I enjoyed it so much. Matter of fact, I still have that NXT, man, not NXT. I still have that Dynamite sitting on my DVR. That way, if I get the urge, I can just go back just to watch not only that entire episode, but that match in general. It was that good. What did you
Hmm.
think, Sid?
That's a top 5 contender for the year right there. Ballsy statement, I know. We're only in the month of March. I know. But please take in mind, one of my matches from 2020 was from Wrestle Kingdom. Remember that, champ?
Yep.
So when I say that Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Thunder Rosa, they're not their lights out non-sanctioned match could be a top 5 candidate for 2021. If you haven't seen it yet, I don't care how you feel about AEW in general. I don't care if you're a mainstream WWE guy and you hate AEW's vein of existence. I don't care about that. Just trust me. Watch the fucking match. It's gold. I fucking loved it.
Indeed, exactly. But let's talk about this week's Dynamite. The Lights Out match was insane as hell. They truly shined the spotlight on that division. And he said, Sid, you just said DMD and Eli Drake cadence. Well, Dr. Britt Baker does say that very same cadence of Eli Drake.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be fair. She does the same
Yes,
thing.
let's
It
be
is
fair.
what it is.
She does the
But
same thing.
all right, what were your 5 bits from Dynamite for me, sir?
All right, my good sir. FTR and Sean Spears versus the Varsity Blondes and Dwayne Martin as the Pinnacle had their match debut together. John Silver versus Darby Allin, our main event this week on Dynamite. Nyla Rose versus Ty Conti. The promo with Team Taz proclaiming that they're still on solid ground.
Mm-hmm.
And Hangman Adam Page versus Cesar Bononi.
All right, well, straight away, the TNT Championship was number one. That was a great match, and even better because the fact that John Silver likely suffered a separated shoulder in that match and still finished. He still finished the match with a separated shoulder, which you may seem ill-advised, but when you're in a match like that, you want to finish it, and he wanted to finish it. So there you go. That was number one for me. Number two was definitely Ty Conti versus Nyla Rose. As much as Nyla Rose is a friend of the show, Ty getting that victory was awesome. It was awesome. That's a big victory for her and a victory that she wouldn't have found in NXT. She got a victory over the former AEW Women's World Champion and a force that is unstoppable. So, and then it looks like they're forging a friendship. Is Ty Conti and Hikaru Shida. So that was definitely fun for me. Um, the down part, I would say bad, but down part was that Team Taz promo. It just um, I don't know. I just enjoy it as much as I wanted to because it didn't really answer a lot of questions to me. It didn't answer a lot of questions. It wasn't bad. It was pretty decent, but it just didn't answer any questions for me. And like and then Benoni and Page is right behind it. It's not very enjoyable and things like that. Uh, and so that's me right there. That's me. And so Sif, for you, uh, Omega versus Kenny Omega versus Seidel in the World Title Eliminator match. Dr. Britt Baker DMD's promo. The Elite, which is Brandon Cutler and the Young Bucks against the Lucha Brothers and the Laredo Kid. Ty Conte versus Nyla Rose, and the TNT Championship match between Darby Allin and Johnny Hungy.
All of those really, really, really good bits. But number one for the Dark Lord this week is the Elite versus the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid. Now, I realize I'm going to mention the main event as my number two, but this was pay-per-view worthy shit here on a six-man tag level that had me on the edge of my seat. Just an exciting match overall. And it proved that even though Pac is out with injury, and that's sad that he is, the Death Triangle could still get the work in without Pac and with the Laredo Kid, and they've worked together in the past. I enjoyed the post-match festivities as well as Don's plan comes into fruition with the Bucks walking out on Kenny Omega and Kenny paying a price as he got attacked blindsided-wise. And honestly, you have to wonder what took the Good Brothers long enough to come out as well. They didn't come out fast enough to make the save on Kenny. Did you notice that, champ?
I did notice.
Something weird's going on here. It's something to follow. A little bit of a nugget there. Number two, oh, God. This is tough. And I'm going to get shit for this. But number two is Nyla Rose versus Ty Conte. Now, as we have said, Nyla Rose is a friend of the show, and we love her. She's fucking awesome. But she put Ty Conte over. She did business this week. She could have told them, they could have agreed to Nyla getting a squash backstage. But Nyla probably went backstage and said, no, I'm putting her over. Because Nyla gets it. That, yes, she's going to have her square of monster squash matches, but she also needs to put forth that effort alongside. The worst is what I enjoyed the least, and that's Britt Baker's promo, but it wasn't a bad promo, but I want to see Thunder Rosa have one more match like this. But overall, champ, I got a question for you.
Yes.
After Kenny Omega met Seidel, Don Callis, the way he was acting after that match and during the match, he's like an on-screen version of Uncle Dave Meltzer. You hate the guy, but he's getting proper heel heat though, unlike Uncle Dave.
I'm about to disqualify you and remove you from the podcast. You know we don't mention that man's name on this podcast.
I
You
know,
just did it.
but
I'm about to disqualify you
sorry.
and remove you from this podcast.
Sorry,
I'm gonna let it slide this one time, but next time I'm gonna
Yeah.
disqualify you and remove you from this podcast. And Hector makes a good point here as he says that his bottom of the barrel was Page versus Benoni. His top two were
Yep.
Johnny Hungy versus Darby Allin and Conte versus Rose. He did mention this. Did y'all notice Britt was wearing plaid while bad-mouthing Mick Foley?
Yes.
I
Good
will
catch
say
there.
I was a big fan of this promo because it once again shows how good Britt Baker is as a heel. I'm really enjoying the evolution that she's having as a heel, and this really proved it. And the fact that she took a shit on fucking Mick Foley, Jesus Christ, dude, I loved it. It's so awesome, and it just shows me like she gets it. She gets what it's like.
She gets it. I think it was more than just heel heat there. She knows how to do it. She was okay as a babyface, but as a heel, Britt Baker has really gotten into her own. It's just fascinating to watch.
Yeah. All right.
And she took the piss out of Mick Foley. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love her taking the piss out of Mick Foley. Right. So let's talk about
NXT.
NXT. NXT. Like I said, I'm trying to get the video ready for when it's time to talk about the NXT UK report. Finally got it ready to go.
All right.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in just a bit. What was that? Okay. Yes. See right there. We're gonna take it, and there we go. No, I don't want to do that. What the hell? There we go. All right. And so let's start with this. We're with the five. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
It's me.
Bless.
Let's see. George Devlin going up against Sheeta in a nice little light heavyweight or cruiserweight match. The confrontation at the end of the night between Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole, where they signed a contract for a lights out unsanctioned match. Aaron Cross going one-on-one with Orny Lorcan. Bronson Reed going up against L.A. Knight. And your two women's tag team matches, which include the first NXT Women's Tag Champions Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai against against Io Shirai and Zoe Stark, and then of course the Robert Stone brand getting a shot at the NXT Women's Tag Championship against CCB, the Shotzi Black. Those are your eyes.
Okay. Top is the contract, which is going to be a little history here to bring in history to the present. And Champ, you'll like this. At WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers explode. Remember that tagline? Well, at NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver, the Undisputed Era is going to explode in a no rules, no liability, non-sanctioned match. Bruh, I'm here for this. I'm here for this. Please, it just happened already. I'm here. Devlin Kushida is my number 2. Non-title main event. It was off the hook. It was just amazing. It really was. Legado del Fantasma got their noses got involved, but it was to serve notice to Devlin that he's being carefully watched. I think people need to understand that was meant as a little bit of messaging there. Okay? I hate to say this because Champ knows I love LA Knight. But I think that he did the right thing in putting Bronson Reed over. He did really good business there, but it's what I enjoyed the least out of the 5 because NXT was solid top to bottom this week. But I got to give you one that's going to be crazy. So let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. What's up?
Walter Maverick squashing Drake Maverick.
Okay.
The 2 women's tag team matches where we had Mercedes Martinez and Aaliyah versus Zimmerman and Shotzi Blackheart, as well as Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai versus Zoe Stark, Io Shirai. That's your number 2. The number 3 is the Undisputed Era unraveling big time and then leading in to the closing segment. the triple threat match that's going to be a TakeOver Stand and Deliver that was announced between MSK Grizzled Young Veterans and Legado del Fantasma. I'm going to give you the confrontation promo between Karrion Kross and Finn Balor, and Devlin versus Kushida.
All right, Devlin versus Kushida, number one. Because you got a nice hard hitting match between the two. You gotta love that. Always gotta love that. So that's one. Number two has to be that promo between Karrion Kross and Finn Balor. You know that's gonna be a great match to watch. I can't wait for that. And it's gonna make it night to stand and deliver. What they going into this is gonna be absolutely awesome, and I can't wait for that. I don't want to speculate on the fact that I think that Karrion Kross regains the NXT title coming into this, but I think that's probably a foregone conclusion. But we'll see. But that's what I enjoyed the most out of all those titles too. What I enjoyed the least, and I would have to say what I enjoyed the least. What were the other three? You're muted. You're muted. Seth, you're muted.
Sorry. Walter.
I was saying you're muted for like 5 times. Yeah. And you're like,
yeah, I was drinking water. I'm like, oh shit, I'm muted. Okay. Walter versus Drake Maverick in the 2 women's tag team matches.
What was the
Huh?
What was the third one?
The 2 women's tag matches. Walter versus Drake Maverick. And the announcement.
Oh, and the announcement
of the triple threat match for the TakeOver championships.
Right. Walter's Drake Maverick I enjoyed the least because I expected it to be squash. I expected it to be a squash, and I got that, and I still wasn't satisfied. Though they did give a Ciampa coming out and challenging for the NXT UK Championship, which I'm very intrigued by. That was what I enjoyed the least. Right, that's what I enjoyed the least. So there you go.
Yeah, and that's got a sinking feeling about NXT UK Prelude that it's pre-recorded.
Yeah, most likely. Most likely. But it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Yeah. All right. Then let's talk about NXT. The NXT UK Report. We bring that right there. And Seth, what do we have on the report this week?
Oh, we had a little bit of a match from what happened 2 weeks ago where Jack Stars takes on Joseph Connors with a nice little caveat. Did Ilya Dragunov and Sam Gradwell, how was there no DQ match? And also, how did Primate fare with T-Bone? All of that in the NXT UK report right down from the basement. Hello, friends, and welcome to your NXT UK report for this week. We began the show with Supernova Sessions with Noam Dar, and his guest was Trent Seven this week. Noam had no chill at all and decided to antagonize Trent, but got a rude awakening as Trent never backs down at all, even though Noam had backup in the form of Shawn Samuels. Our opening match was Jack Stars versus Joseph Connors, with Piper Niven and Jenny banned from ringside. Per NXT UK General Manager Johnny Saint. In a match that was brought to us after the results of the mixed tag team match 2 weeks ago, these Usman had a spirited contest, but after an implant DDT and a Hangman's neckbreaker, Connors defeats Stars. Next week, we get Pretty Deadly in their first defense of the NXT UK Tag Team Championships as they take on Amir Jordan and Kenny Williams. We had Josh Morrell and Danny Jones take on the new team of Primate and T-Bone. T-Bone and Primate just flat out dominated this week as T-Bone nailed a power slam on Danny Jones, followed by a diving headbutt by Primate for the W. We had Aaliyah James taking on Isla Dawn in the women's division this week. This was a really good women's division match, and at the end of the day, Isla Dawn, the White Witch of NXT UK, wins the Sato suplex that went into call of the quarters. Zaya Brookside had one more task for Nina Samuels to wrap up the month of Nina being her personal assistant, clean the men's restroom. In our main event, we had Ilya Dragunov versus Sam Gradwell in a no disqualification match. This was a brutal main event, and honestly, this is exactly what we needed between these two guys. After Gradwell's smack talk backstage, at the end of the match, though, Dragonov wins again by referee stoppage after Dragonov elbowed Gradwell unconscious yet again. And that is your NXT UK report for this week.
Yes. Yeah, sorry guys. Unfortunately, normal method that we use to play the NXT UK report, we were listening to it in post pre-production, and it caused the audio to be choppy, which listening to the feed would have made no sense because my audio is already choppy as is. So it would have just been nothing wrong. So we should have went that route. We tried something different before we did it that method, but it worked fine. This time, apparently something went wrong and it didn't work very well. So basically, Isla Dawn is going after Kaylee Ray. One thing that wasn't mentioned in the report was that Kaylee Ray caught Isla Dawn backstage and was trying to talk to her, and Isla Dawn looked possessed, and Kaylee Ray said, nope, nope, no, and walked the fuck away. She said, nah, I ain't with this spooky bollocks, I'm out. So that's going to happen, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen probably at Prelude. That's got to happen at Prelude. It's got to happen at Prelude, right? Good opening contest. Good opening contest. Definitely enjoyed that. The Supernova sessions, like I like the fact that Trent Seven didn't get too rattled, even with Shaw Samuels. We're gonna get a match with Noam Dar and Trent Seven, and can't wait for that. So that should be good. It's gonna be good to see Noam Dar actually in the ring and not just doing the Supernova sessions. I want to see him in the ring. And I hate the fact that this Nina Samuels and Zaya Brookside thing is ending because it was very entertaining for this 30 days. It seems like this month has gone by so fast, but this is very entertaining, and I'm sad that this is ending because I really was entertained by this. I really was. But that main event though, fuck me, they beat the absolute piss out of each other, and you love to see it. And for Dragonov to get the victory over Sam Gradwell, to shut that pompous bastard's mouth up once and for all, I enjoyed it so much.
Pompous bastard.
Love it, love it, love it. I just love it. Sam Gradwell can get fucked. And he got rocked.
Champ, tell them
Yes.
my cure for Dragonov. Because I told you in chat, earlier.
Beat Walter.
Yep, that's the only character.
Beat Walter. But I mean, Ciampa might beat him too. Who knows? But anyway, um,
Damn.
the
Because that was one of
NXT
my
UK
favorite.
was entertaining. Entertaining. Another entertaining episode this week. The great thing about NXT UK is they only give you maybe two, maybe three matches, but I mean, they're entertaining matches. And then of course, Pretty Deadly's gonna have their first title defense next week. Who are they going up against again?
Kenny Williams and Amir Jordan, a team that's on the rocks right now, that appears to possibly split up pretty soon.
Right. So we already know what the result of that's going to be. But anyway,
Yeah.
but for those who are listening on the audio version, I'm pretty like for those listening on the audio version, my explanation of why it sounds the way it does, it won't make sense to you guys because it'll be it'll be a cleaner version of it on the audio version. So if you want to hear the report in full and clean, just listen to the audio version, which should be up on tomorrow morning, maybe. I still haven't even put up episode 102 yet, so we'll see. But that's neither here nor there. Again, make sure you're checking out NXT UK it's going to be on Peacock pretty soon, but definitely check it out. It's really fun to watch. I don't know why more people aren't watching it, in my opinion. And we're going to close things out with SmackDown.
SmackDown.
Had the fallout from Fastlane. Of course, we know what happened on the Fastlane main event. Roman Reigns retained the Universal Championship over Daniel Bryan. No thanks to Edge. And then, of course, we had all the fallout from that. So, Sith, I'm going to give you your 5 bits real quick. And the first one is what happened at the end of the show, which was the announcement from Adam Pearce that the Universal Championship match will now be a triple threat match. Edge, Roman Reigns, and Daniel Bryan for the title. Rey Mysterio going up against Dolph Ziggler one-on-one. Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura in a rematch from Fastlane. Sasha Banks in the aftermath of Belair's win over Natalya, dropping Belair with a backstabber. And finally, KO bringing Sammy onto the KO show and asking him the question of him, KO versus Sammy at WrestleMania, yes or no? What do you got?
The ending. The moment of truth with Adam Pearce joined by the mob boss Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman, who's our version of, he's the consigliere. He's our version of Tom Hagen. Jey Uso, who's our version of Sonny Corleone. Edge, who's right now playing the role of tweener. And Daniel Bryan, the leader of the Yes Movement. Wow. The ending was insane. I went back and rewatched it after it happened because I watched it live and I had it on my DVR and I rewatched it again. And I'm like, whoa. Please. Give us more of a build the next 2 weeks to follow this up with, because this is going to be a phenomenal night 2. I think it's either night 1 or night 2, but whenever the match happens, it's going to be phenomenal.
Which match are you talking about?
The triple threat.
Night 2.
Reigns, night 2. It's going to be a phenomenal match on night 2. It is. Banks attacking Bianca Belair after the match. It was good that, okay. The match itself had a lot of mind games. And Natalya was not hurt in eating the pin from Bianca Belair because with all the interference happening backstage, with everything happening at ringside, it protected things. So we're good there. But the backstabber just cements Sasha Banks as getting back to being who she is. The boss. The heel. And you made this easy for me. And because the only thing I didn't like about the show was the fact that Dolph Ziggler got a jobber entrance. The match was good. It was a really, really, really good match. But, champ, how can you give your one half of your tag team champions a jobber entrance
I
for
have no
what's
idea.
basically your main event match? Because the main event was set aside to be the whole promo to lead in for WrestleMania Night 2. So,
Any
that's the only low point of the night. Everything else was great. I can give you your 5.
word.
Everything leading up to the closing segment, and I mean everything, from the opening promo to the backstage vignettes to the ending at the end. Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. The 6-man tag, Big E and the Street Profits versus Apollo Crews and the Alpha Academy. The KO show featuring Sami Zayn as the guest, which was just pretty crazy. Bianca Belair versus Natalya plus the Fallout. And I'll give you Ziggler versus Mysterio.
Everything leading up to the announcement is definitely number one because you got Roman being mob boss Roman, Edge rolling up into his locker room, and Roman being like, "Boy, you got some balls on you to come to my locker room," and Edge being like, "Mate, look, Daniel's trying to take our spotlight. What you gonna do? But I thought you had pull around here, fam. You know what I'm saying? So you had that. Everything about this, them coming up on Adam Pearce and being like, yo, you better make the right decision, fam. Even Daniel Bryan was like, I trust you'll make the right decision. He was the only one who didn't try to intimidate Adam Pearce. It was funny as fuck. And then, of course, you had the announcement. And even the opening promo where, Daniel Bryan went after Edge, but still got Spirit. Edge going off the deep end. We're getting psychotic Edge. I'm loving that shit because that's the best Edge, in my opinion, is psychotic Edge, where he's pulling on the hair and he's got the wild eyes. And I love that Edge. I will be honest with you. And I will say, I'm going to be the opposite and say Ray versus Dolph was number 2 for me because there was that one spot in the match that was absolutely incredible. And that was Ray was going to go for a plancha on Robert Roode. And just as he went for the springboard, Dolph Ziggler out of nowhere with the zigzag dropping Ray. That was absolutely incredible. Yet it only got a 2 count. I was like, wait, hold on, fam. Wait, how did that only get a 2 count? As amazing as that was, and that being his finisher, how does that only get 2? It still was awesome, though. And the match was solid. Jobber interest aside, the match was absolutely solid. And you got a feeling that at WrestleMania it's going to be Ray and Dom versus the Dirty Dogs for the tag titles, SmackDown tag titles. Because Ray had cut a promo saying that one of the things he wants to accomplish in his career is winning tag team gold with his son, which you got to feel is going to most likely happen at WrestleMania. Because where else would it happen, right? And especially because you're going to have a crowd there. So where else would it happen? The 6-man tag was the match I enjoyed the least. And it was still a solid match, but I just enjoyed it the least, especially because Apollo got a pinfall victory over Big E. So now you're basically giving me the idea that Apollo could potentially become Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania, which I wouldn't be opposed to because I like his character. I like the character that he has become. I like what he's doing with that. So I wouldn't be too mad at that. But, I mean, like I said, it was the match that I enjoyed the least. Out of the 5 that you provided, that was what I enjoyed the least. I enjoyed Bianca and Natalya. It was solid. All the bollocks that happened in between there, notwithstanding. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the aftermath of that because it's like, yeah, let's get some more depth to this story here, right? So that's what I got for you guys in terms of SmackDown. SmackDown was solid once again this week. And I'm interested to see where they go going forward. They only have but another week and a half or so to build up to a week where it's going to be nothing but wrestling with NXT specials, NXT UK specials, the Hall of Fame, and of course 2 nights of WrestleMania. Man, oh man, is it going to be a busy week coming up. And just to give you guys a heads up before we get into our final thought is that the week after WrestleMania will be our season finale. We will finish off season 2, recapping the 2 nights of WrestleMania. Then we will take a week off, and then we'll be back. That's easy for me to say. We will be back for season 3 of No Spots Podcast. Season 3 of the No Spots Podcast will kick off 2 weeks after WrestleMania. Well, about 2 weeks, I should say. Three weeks, we should say, because of course we're going to be back the following week to recap WrestleMania. We'll take the week off, and then we'll be back after. So towards the end of April, we'll have season 3, the season premiere of No Spots Podcast. So make sure you check that out. So we have final thoughts here. Of course, our final thoughts segment is just some final thoughts that we have, whether they're wrestling related or non-wrestling related, plus our plugs for what we got going on coming up this week, so that you can be prepared for what we got coming for you guys this week. Sith, the floor is yours.
All right. Champ knows this, as do other people, but y'all see this right here? Yep. This is big. A lot of you are going to be in shock, but I've entered stage 1 of the COVID vaccination process. I got it done this afternoon. I was telling my girlfriend it's being done for my personal safety as well as my family and friends. It's that, along with WrestleMania week coming up fast, that something came to mind. Hopefully sometime mid-late summer, early fall, we will start to see wrestling back on the road again and with crowds. We're starting to see that stateside because in 2 weeks at WrestleMania, during the weekend with WWE trying to get a projected 25,000 fans at Raymond James Stadium for each of the 2 nights of WrestleMania this year, is a bit of a test. Yes, they are relocating the Thunderdome, but in all honesty, we hope for the days to have live shows in front of the fans and not just virtually, and or in front of recruits, because at the Capitol Wrestling Center, you have the NXT Performance Center recruits as well as their little monitors. However, it's time for us to know that our hopes as fans coming back, more than just a pay-per-view, that we need to remember a few things here. 1, wear a goddamn mask if you go out, for fuck's sake. Same person that I'm talking about tonight, we enjoyed a Sunday out 2 weeks ago. It was at an outdoor mall that's here in the area. Safety measures were in place, and thankfully people were exercising common sense and wearing a mask. Don't want to wear a mask? Order things delivered to your house where you can have contactless delivery. Even though post-vaccination, masks will still be needed for the time being. And 2, and here's where wrestling comes into play, y'all. If you run into a wrestler at a restaurant, gas station, convenience store, airport, hotel, whatever, stop ambushing them for autographs, and for fuck's sake, stop tracing them down to their goddamn residences. Also, stop being dicks on social media towards them as well. I get it. You want to have merch signed, or you want to tell them how you think their character sucks, but some things are left aside. If you have a crush on a performer, don't track them down. Please don't. It gives fandom a bad name. I hope everyone stays safe and mindful as well. We're hopefully starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel here, folks, and it's something that we've been looking forward to for a year now. Please be safe and mindful of others. In This Week in the Basement, Champ, I know, likes this because I'm revisiting some of the best countdowns that I had with Blog Talk, and I'm bringing them back. And we're doing the top 180 films you have to see before you die. Lots of good shit here, film-wise. And this is part 2 of the countdown. Champ, I yield the floor, homie.
Okay. So this week it was announced a couple more inductees into the Hall of Fame, and there's a reason why I didn't include this in the news, because I wanted to bring this up in my final thoughts. One of those was announced on the bump, and that was Kane. Undertaker announced to Kane that he was being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Well deserved. 3-time former world champion, won the WWE Championship the World Heavyweight Championship, and the ECW World Championship. Also a former IC champion, former multiple-time tag champion, winner of the Money in the Bank match, had the record for the most eliminations overall of any competitor in Royal Rumble history, most appearances in a Royal Rumble match of any competitor in the history of the Royal Rumble match. I mean, the man has done it all and has had one of the most iconic characters in all of professional wrestling. So he deserves to go into the Hall of Fame. Why the fuck is the Great Khali being inducted into the Hall of Fame? Why is this happening? This is the same shit I said back in 2019 when Torrie Wilson got inducted into the Hall of Fame. What the fuck has Great Khali done to deserve being in the Hall of Fame besides being a one-time world? What the fuck has he done to deserve in the Hall of Fame, dude? He was a trash wrestler. He was trash in WWE. And yet, he wins one more championship, and in the... How the fuck does that work? How does that work? You have literally just delegitimized your Hall of Fame by putting this man, about to induct this man in there, when his only accomplishment was winning the world title, and when he won it, it was upside down. He held it upside down when he won it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Your Hall of Fame is supposed to be a showcase of the best that came through WWE or anybody that's been absorbed by WWE, including WCW and ECW. And yet you're putting in the Great Khali. Now I get it. India has a very large population. Very, very large population. So you want to cater to that large population and grow revenue in such a large population. But this ain't the way. By putting in... You're putting in somebody who barely made a dent in terms of impact in WWE, whose only contribution was how bad of a wrestler he was. And now he's going to be forever called a Hall of Famer. Whenever he makes a return to WWE, he's going to be introduced as WWE Hall of Famer, the Great Khali. This is going to be one of the biggest mistakes that WWE is going to make with its Hall of Fame, is putting that man in there. And I just can't take that Hall of Fame seriously anymore. Now that man is going to be a part of it, I can't take it seriously anymore. And I won't take it seriously anymore. From here on out, the WWE Hall of Fame has been delegitimized and is no longer a factor in my eyes. Because you put in somebody that was not very good and whose character was not very memorable, but yet now they're immortalized as a Hall of Famer. And it's sad. Period. Tune in on Monday. I will be on with the roundtable talking about the week in Wizards basketball. They are actually getting ready to tip off against the Pistons in just a bit, so I will go and watch that to see what they do there. We'll see what they do there. I don't know what they're going to do there, but we're going to check it out anyway. They actually have already gone 0-2 this week. I thought they were going to split against the Knicks. Instead, they lost both games to the Knicks. So we'll see what they do against the Pistons. Boy, oh boy. And then they got a game on Monday, which we will talk about on the show this coming Monday as well. So just keep an eye out for that. That'll be on Sports on the Hill podcast this Monday, 9 p.m. You can check it out on Facebook. Make sure you search Sports on the Hill podcast and check that out. So there's that. So that's all we have for you guys on this week's edition of the No Spots Podcast, episode 103. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, apologies for the poor audio. It's either the internet itself or the site causing these audio issues. I thought that even plugging into the internet would fix it, and it seems like that has not done that. So we're trying, guys. We're trying to do the best that we can to provide the most quality of content and audio that we can, but there's just some things that are just out of our control that we can't fix, unfortunately. So with that being said, please stay tuned because we're gonna do a raid. We're gonna do a raid. If you're on our Twitch stream, we're gonna raid a good friend of mine. Her name is Mariah May. She is a United Kingdom professional wrestler who's actually a current champion in the United Kingdom, and that hopefully once the pandemic settles down, she will get back to it in terms of wrestling. But she's currently doing a Mariathon, is what she's calling it. A Mariathon. She's doing a 12-hour stream playing different games, whether it be she's already played Animal Crossing and Mario Kart. She's currently playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, and so she's got that going on. So we're gonna go in and I'm gonna show her some love. Matter of fact, somebody in her channel actually gifted this channel a sub on there. So it's only right to show them some love and go in there and say hello to Mariah. So if you're still here, uh, please make sure that you go in and say hello to Mariah, show her some love because she's good people. And she's currently doing, like I said, a 12-hour stream and everything like that. So make sure you show her some love and make sure you check us out next week where we will begin to preview WrestleMania. We will begin to look ahead to WrestleMania and the week that's coming up with WrestleMania week. All that good stuff that we got. We're gonna do that all next week. So make sure you tune in at this time, same bat time or same pod time, same pod channel. It's a No Spot podcast with myself and Siv. We'll see you